I come here today as the Executive Director of the Chez Panisse Foundation, and more importantly, as the mother of 2 young children. When you have children, you begin to worry about a lot of things, and what they eat, or food, is one of them. The Chez Panisse Foundation gets its name from a restaurant that wholly supports 2 farms and 85 others by buying locally, seasonally, and sustainably. It was started by a woman named Alice Waters. Alice is also the founder of the Chez Panisse Foundation. We're a separate nonprofit, and our work is to support educational programs that use food to educate, empower, and nurture youth to build a more sustainable future. 12 years ago, we started an organic kitchen and garden program at a public middle school to build a model that would change the way children relate to food. We wanted to show them how their food choices have both an impact on their health, the community, and the environment. Today, the Edible Schoolyard is a program in which every child participates in growing, harvesting, cooking, and sharing food at the table. Children learn about where their food comes from, and math, reading, and writing. They learn about proportionality with recipes, and science with soil experiments, and history through ancient grains that they harvest. They turn the compost pile, and their scraps from their kitchen classroom go into it. The original vision for the Edible Schoolyard was to include a school lunch program for all students, not just a healthy lunch, but a delicious one that's made from local, seasonal, and sustainable ingredients. Our schools in Berkeley, like other schools in America, before we started this work, were serving frozen grilled cheese sandwiches in packages, something called enchiritos, which I'm still not sure what they are, and chicken fingers that no doubt had traveled what is that typical 1,500 miles to get to our cafeteria. So we funded a chef to work inside the school district to begin to make changes, not just taking the bad things out, but focusing on buying locally. It was an important part of our strategy and our vision. Lots of districts are trying to change their food and take fat out or lower the sugar, but they're not looking at their local sourcing. And we knew that local, seasonal, and sustainably grown foods would be better for the environment, and they would simply taste better for kids. Ripe, juicy tomatoes in the late summer, tangerines in the winter, apples in the fall, lettuces in the spring. We have vision they would lure children into our cafeterias. But could the district, a public school district, afford these changes? They had a policy that said they should do it, but would they really do it? So 2.5 years later, we have a salad bar in every school, much of which is organic, free breakfast for all students, and organic milk at lunch. 30% of our produce is organic and actually regionally or locally procured. We compost and recycle in all of our kitchens, 16 of them, and have moved away from metal containers to serving buffet style with compostable trays and, in some schools, real plates. The Foundation does not pay for any of the food costs. We supported the cook in the development of new menus, procurement systems, and an evaluation. It sounds quite simple. Buy locally and make real food. It's as right as rain. But we face many challenges. Can you imagine that when we started, we had to teach people who were making the food how to use a knife? Can you imagine that we don't have a stove in our central kitchen that serves 5,000 meals a day? Can you imagine that we couldn't even buy from a farmer from the farmer's market because we had no place to store his or her produce and no way to purchase directly from them? And finally, what do you think you can make for lunch that's nourishing and delicious, that's less than $1? Despite these challenges, we've made progress, and I do believe it can be done in other places. For school districts, it requires more incentives and better policies. When fruit cocktail meets nutritional guidelines set by the USDA, I think we have a problem. We need stronger language in the Farm Bill to support local purchasing of all food, not just fruits and vegetables, and we need investments or loans to help farmers grow real food, broccoli instead of just corn for corn syrup. We need pilot programs to show that this can be done in other parts of the country, both the lunch piece and the education piece. And we need more funding for food. We have to stop thinking of food as cheap. Jamie Oliver, I was recently with him, another chef from the UK, held up an iPod and he said, "Would you want to buy this iPod if it just cost $20? No, you'd question where it came from and you'd question what it was made of." We should be thinking about the same thing with food for our children. Do we really want to buy the cheapest beef? The beef recall, the largest in history with 173 million pounds of beef, should be a lesson to us. We need more funding for training in school gardens because we've learned at the Edible Schoolyard, if they grow it and cook it, they absolutely will eat it. Finally, it requires leadership at all levels of government and in our schools. Budgets are tight, but we can pay now or pay later. I don't need to tell you about the obesity crisis facing our children and the CDC telling us that this generation will be the first to die younger than its parents. I end with how I introduced myself as a mother who cares about what kind of world my children will live in. Children learn eating habits when they're very, very young. And I have a son that is 1 and a daughter that's 3. Fortunately, my daughter loves peas. She saw a basket of them recently at Chez Panisse and asked to take a handful of them out of the restaurant with her. And as we left, said, "More, Mama, more." But at the same time, she goes to a daycare center in Oakland where there's a lunch subsidized by the federal government that gives her fish sticks and chocolate pudding for lunch. There's something wrong with this picture when a mother tries to do the right thing, but the government sends a different message. I'm so honored to be here testifying before this committee. It means that government, our leaders, are connecting the dots between the food system and the environment, between our children's health and the health of this economy. What we feed our children matters. The National Lunch Program serves 31 million children a day, and we have a choice about what to feed them. Thank you for connecting your efforts to create energy independence and stop global warming with our efforts to make a very simple meal, lunch, more delicious and locally grown for children. Thank you.